All right, now let's get analysis. We're now joined via Zoom by Gugu Xaba, CEO of Save the Children South Africa. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I mean, really, one can't put words to the story. It really is a shocking story. Just talk to us about your reaction, to this heinous crime.
Thank you very much to SABC for the question and the concern. And Save the Children South Africa basically is saying, we've been saying communities in South Africa are accepting violence that is happening in the home setting. And this now has gone into the community, which means we are a violent community, and research has confirmed that. I think for Save the Children, that's the starting point. Now, right now, we are reacting, and yet there's very little that we're doing to prevent violence from occurring. And when you look at this particular situation, we are dealing with people that are likely to be using children's parts for muti, or there's also some level of trafficking, maybe parts of people, I'm not sure about that. But now that says the care for children as a community is very low. And the other thing we note, the fact that it's broad daylight, even though these boys, it was 3 of them, this actually says even the adults that were around, thought the children were safe more so because it's broad daylight. But now the need for us, let's say the children had gone to the center and they had found someone, they would have been protected. But I'm sure you are aware that this week we have community-based organizations that are protesting because of a budget cut that has not been given to them. So we're going to have even less people that are taking care of children. This says South Africa is not prioritizing safety and security for children. And this means our priorities are somewhere else. We are a violent community, and we're not prioritizing preventing any lack of safety for children.
Ms. Xaba, let me come in there.
Yet we react.
Let me come in there. I want to just talk about what you just said now. Care for children as a community is low. And that's true, because when you look at the statistics, if you look at the 2022 stats, we were shocked to find that a total of 558 children were murdered in this country between the period of April and September. So that means 3 children are murdered in South Africa every day. We are talking about very young children in this instance, 5 and 6 years old. And when you look at what happened in KwaZulu-Natal, a 13-year-old boy was amongst those that was killed when 10 family members were shot dead. You speak of care of children being very low. What does that say then about the kind of society that we are and that we live in? Because if you were listening to some of, those interviews with the mother who discovered her child's mutilated body, describing just pieces of him that were taken. How would you describe the kind of country that we live in now?
As I said when I started, we are living in a very violent society. And yes, we acknowledge that there's poverty, there's inequality, but that doesn't justify the society of South Africa to be as violent as it is. And we do not care. That is why right now those parts were bought by someone and they are going to use it for a reason that is not even going to benefit them. So our communities, each time we talk about the need, one for Ubuntu and the need for caring, because when you care for yourself and others, you are able to build a society that can be sustainable. But South Africa is not listening. Instead, I think it's more important to think about how do I get more money to satisfy my needs, which are eventually not being satisfied. So there is a need for a serious moral regeneration for South Africa, for us to be able to take care of ourselves. Because right now there's a lot of self-harm. Even the very people that have mutilated these children, they are going to go to jail, which means they don't even care about their own lives. So society needs to change the way it thinks, no matter the poverty or the challenges that we're dealing with, because doing additional wrong doesn't correct the problem. Same with governance systems that respect the rights of children and they respect the rights of human beings. We wouldn't be where we are if we had good governance system. What is happening right now with DSD and lack of funding to support care of children says our priorities are not right. And it's important that as a society we change the way we're doing things.
I would imagine safety awareness campaigns are also very much important, in as far as some of the solutions that you're suggesting, because, the Medical Research Council found that out of all the child murder cases that we are seeing in this country, only 3.8% of perpetrators are strangers or victims. I mean, you touched on briefly on what these body parts could possibly be used for. So it then becomes very important for some sort of safety awareness with all role players, to be involved.
Yes. No, you're right. There is a need for us to be involved, all of us. But now, let's look at this. If 1 in 3 children are hurt physically inside a home, you can imagine how much more is happening outside the home, which means we've got a problem with the parenting or the child caregiving that is taking place even inside a home. But funny enough, when we do research and ask parents, do you understand the value of taking care of your child, of nurturing your child, of being there and listening to your child? They say they do. But now what they do is the exact opposite of what they should be doing. So then it means our priorities, even in the home setting, is not right. Because we think it's important that I must rush and go and find money for myself and my weave, and yet I'm not taking care of my children. So South Africa as a community needs to change the way it deals with its children, needs to contribute more to preventing violence from occurring in the home, even before we go outside. And, the selfishness that we see out there contributes to some of these problems because people want to enrich themselves and they forget what they're using. They don't care actually what they're using to enrich themselves. So those are some of the problems. And there's a lot of education in terms of prevention of violence against children and any other human being that should be protected from being violated. But then society is not taking heed, is not listening and no one cares.
All right, ma'am, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Obviously a very difficult topic to discuss. Gugu Xaba is the CEO of Save the Children South Africa.